Sinti and Roma. If you've ever heard that term before, you might have thought, okay, well, I know who the Roma are, but who are the Sinti? And if you try to look it up online, you probably ran into a lot of contradicting information, misinformation, and in general, a lot of stuff that's not written by people who are actually of Romani descent. And that can lead to a lot of confusion. And that's what I'm here for. Taven Bachtale, my name is Florian, and this is Romani History by a Romani Person. Or should I say, Romani people, as today we are joined by Tayo, who is Sinti from Germany.
I'm Tayo Onotor. I am a singer, I'm an author, I'm a political worker, educational worker. I'm part of a feminist archive Romani Pen in Berlin and also part of the initiative in Iromnia.
And Noé, who is Manouche from France.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Noé, j'ai 43 ans, je suis un manouche. Toute ma vie, j'ai vécu en caravane et ma jeunesse, c'était dans les campings qu'on faisait ça avec ma famille. Et avec le peu qu'on avait, on était tous ensemble, mais on arrivait à être heureux.
Because who better to learn about Sinti people than from actual Sinti people themselves? So first of all, who are the Sinti people? Well, the Sinti are their own unique and independent branch of the wider Romani family. And within that branch, there's also a lot of different groups within that as well. So for example, the Manouche, who are the largest Romani group in France, are also part of the Sinti people. So while oftentimes in a Central European context, you may see the words Sinti and Roma said separately, the Sinti are also part of the wider Romani family.
The group of Sinti is one of the Romani groups. I know that there are some people who don't see it this way or who somehow claim it to be somehow worded in a different way. But for me, if we look at scientific researches and everything, especially from scientists from our own community, it's pretty obvious for me to see that they are all connected. There are so many different Romani groups, and Sinti me is, from what I understand and from what I learned, one of the Romani groups. For us, even we've been working together the Romani Pen since, like I said, almost 20 years. And until today, it's always really impressive to see the connections in the language and also other connections, different family rituals or just everyday life things. So I think for me, it's really impressive, and it's also fun to see where are the parallels and where are the differences, and how can we come together and connect, because I think that's where the power lies.
But what does it mean to be Sinti? Well, this is actually a very deep and personal question that differs from person to person, even within the same family. But I asked both Tayo and Noé personally what for them defines their Sinti identity.
Aujourd'hui, un manouche, c'est celui qui garde le principe simple d'aimer sa femme, de respecter ses enfants, ses oncles, ses parents, et aussi se tourner vers le Seigneur, parce que en France aujourd'hui, la grande majorité des voyageurs ils se tournent vers Dieu. Voilà, moi j'aime bien ce qui rapproche tous les gens de la communauté du voyage, parce que quand tu as connu cette vie qu'on a eue, eh bien on est tous similaires, parce que cette liberté-là, au fond de toi, même si tu l'as toujours dans ton cœur, et puis quand je vois un voyageur, moi j'aime bien parler avec lui, et j'aime bien partager ce que je suis autour de moi, parce que tout ça, ça se perd. Nos enfants, ils n'ont pas connu ce qu'on a vécu nous. Et quand je vois n'importe qui, eh bien moi je vais discuter avec lui, parce que je veux qu'il garde sa fierté, d'être un Rome, un Sinti, un Yéniche, Zigan, Gitan, n'importe qui, tu vois. Quand tu gardes ce que tu es au fond de toi, eh bien, ça fait toujours plaisir de voir des gens qui, malgré les difficultés, eh bien, ils gardent ce principe d'être quelqu'un de simple. Parce qu'à la base, les gens du voyage, ce sont des gens simples.
Yes, being Sinti or being Romani actually for me means identity. It also reminds me of my heritage. It reminds me of family history. It reminds me of community and growing up and different tradition, rules, and morals that are part of me and part of my life.
The language of the Sinti, Romanes, like all other Romani people, and their specific version of it called Sintikes, is a core part of Sinti identity. Sintikes belongs to the Northern Romani language family, specifically the Northwestern branch. So that means it's closely related to the languages of the Finnish Kale, the Welsh Kale, and the Ramichals in England. It is also closely related to the languages in the northeastern branch as well, such as the languages of the Ruska Haladikta Roma, the Polska Roma, and the Loftika Roma in the Baltic countries. All of these dialects share a degree of mutual intelligibility with each other, especially the closer that you get. However, the core words of Romanes can be understood all over the world. So for example, I compared my Calderash dialect with the Manouche Sinti dialect, comparing two different Romanes dialects, Calderash and
Manouche.
The first word we're going to be comparing is bread. We say manro.
Maro.
Wine, mol.
Mol.
For women, we say juvli.
Juvel.
And for man, we say mursh.
Mursh.
For wife, we say romni.
Romni.
For tree, we say kasht. And they say
Rook.
but for wood, they say
Cash.
for bear, we say rich.
Béro.
And for chicken, we say kaini.
Carni.
For fire, we say yak.
Yak.
For I am called, we say mabushau Florian.
Caroman Noé.
Like many other Romani groups, due to historical persecution and people misusing the language, a lot of Sinti people keep our language a secret and closed practice.
In the history, we talked about the Holocaust before, and back then, the people who were trying to send our ancestors to the concentration camp to have them killed, murdered, and actually used our language to somehow get to the people, which is really mean and evil, right? So trying to gain trust, like through learning some parts of language. Of course, they couldn't really speak fluent, but trying trust through that. It's still, I think, there are ways to somehow make it visible and be proud about it. It's called Yokesi Club. That's it. Yek Drin. Drei Freundinnen in Berlin. There will be the English version coming out end of this year, actually, which will also be Yokesi Club, Yek Du Drin, Three Friends in Berlin. And why I'm mentioning this now is that it's about story. It's plays in school, and there's like one of the story where they are counting, and then like there are always little notes where they put up like important stuff. And this note I put like as you see, the numbers from 1 to 10 in Romanes.
Music, as with all other Romani peoples, is a core part of Sinti identity as well. The Sinti, like all other Romani peoples, share a common origin in India, and some aspects of that Indian origin still show up in Sinti culture. For example, one of the largest Sinti groups, the Manouche, if you speak a Sanskrit-influenced language, you might realize that Manouche means human. Same thing in all other Romani languages.
On vient de là-bas, hein. Moi, quand j'ai fait mes recherches, on vient d'Inde. On est là, et vu la tête que j'ai et la couleur que j'ai, on me prend pour un Indo à chaque fois. Donc l'Inde, oui, c'est une destination que je vais faire parce qu'il y a plein de choses là-bas que je veux découvrir.
Really impressive to see through the language that I grew up with and that we use every day, that there's a connection. Maybe one short funny story. I've been to an Indian restaurant once with friends, and then I just overheard a waiter talking to his colleagues, and he said something and I clearly understood it one-on-one, so to say. And I was shocked myself about this, right? Because I didn't expect that. So I think little things like that actually mean a lot, and they still remind us and that there's definitely the connection.
During the Romani migrations into Europe, the ancestors of the Sinti were some of the first ever Romani groups to enter Central Europe. From there, a lot migrated north into England, east into Poland, Russia, and the Baltic countries, and south into Spain, which explains the close relation between all of these different Romani groups, especially in terms of language and customs. There were later waves of Roma coming from Eastern Europe and the Balkans who migrated into Central Europe a little bit later. By then, the Sinti had already formed their own unique identity. That's one of the many reasons why Sinti and Roma are sometimes said separately within the Central European context.
Roma and Sinti in the German context due to the German history, like the civil rights history that has been going on that I talked about earlier. And that's why we have this term Roma and Sinti in the German-speaking context. It's due to the history. Many people which are Sinti, but also there are also Roma who have been living in Germany since many decades, even before the Second World War, right?
Another reason was because of the Romani civil rights movement that happened in Germany, largely born out of the lack of recognition that Roma and Sinti victims and survivors received after the Holocaust. In fact, it wasn't until 1980 that the Roma and Sinti victims were recognized as victims of the Holocaust, and that the Romani Holocaust was even recognized as a genocide. Even today, information about Roma and Sinti in the Holocaust is severely lacking, even in Germany, which is known to teach extensively about Holocaust history.
There's a really big gap when it comes to Romani and Sinti existence in Germany or also slash Europe. But if we look at Germany and now specifically, you can really see that most of the times in the schools, state also universities, they don't even mention it. If they do, maximum you will get is, oh, by the way, they were also victims of the Holocaust, full stop, and that's it. So thinking about that and looking back at a history of at least 600 years, I think it's really outrageous at one time. At the same time, I think children, young people, they really have the right to get to know the full history of the country that they're living in, where they're learning, where they're studying, where their life is, right? The children should know about the history of the country. So this should be actually part of what they're studying, right? So I think it's not a mistake or somehow, I think it's really, we could say that, and this also continues or somehow connects to our persecution history. We are being made invisible. This is really somehow on purpose. It's not like, oh, they forgot about this or something like this. It's really on purpose, and we are being made invisible. But at the same time, in Germany, you have the civil rights movement that started already some years after a Second World War, when following generation connected with the survivors, which I find really impressive, that they still had the power to do so, and formed the civil rights movement. They try to seek justice and to make their story visible.
The Sinti were severely affected by the Holocaust, yet this is something that is rarely talked about, and each Sinti family has their own unique story that deserves to be told.
Bon, ce que je sais, moi, par rapport à mes papous qui ont fait la guerre mondiale, là, il y en a un qui a été prisonnier, qui a été embarqué dans un camp. Il a réussi à s'échapper, et l'autre, il était plus jeune et il vivait tout seul, caché dans les buissons, dans les bottes de paille, il me disait. Et pour eux, c'était traumatisant parce qu'ils en ont parlé qu'à la fin de leur vie de ça. Et le mien, dans le dernier que j'avais, le côté de ma mère, il nous en a parlé très peu, mais le peu qu'il en parlait, il pleurait à chaque fois, Linda. Malgré son âge. C'était pas quelqu'un qui pleurait souvent, hein, mais quand tu lui parlais de ça, c'était comme un traumatisme, parce qu'il a vu tellement de choses affreuses. Et aujourd'hui, très peu de gens savent l'histoire vraiment de ce qui s'est passé. J'ai encore des récits de personnes qui étaient prisonniers dans les camps, dans le nord de la France, là, où ils arrivaient à faire sortir des petits à travers les barbelés. Et les enfants, ils allaient chercher à manger ce qu'ils pouvaient. Et je sais que le dernier récit qu'on a eu, c'est quelqu'un de ma famille, que mes parents, ils étaient dans le camp de concentration, et les petits, ils se sont échappés, et tous les soirs, ils allaient devant là-bas et donnaient ce qu'ils pouvaient à manger à leur père et aux vieux qui étaient là-bas. Mais c'était un tel traumatisme qu'ils n'en parlaient pas beaucoup. Et aujourd'hui, on sait très peu de choses malheureusement sur ça. Et même mon papou, Zinda, malgré son âge, dès qu'il en parlait, c'était comme quelque chose qui refaisait surface. Et c'est comme un état de choc, quoi.
I'm the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, so I still have that connection. The people, as you didn't get reparations, they had to really fight for it, and most of the people didn't get anything or like really small amount, which is only symbolic anyway, no matter how much it is, right? Mother, for instance, wrote a book like a family biography, which centers around my grandfather and during 45 and how he survived and how he tried to being in the concentration camp and surviving that and all that, trying to build up his life as a musician and violin builder, and how the family also dealt with the trauma. So this is just one story of our family, for instance, and there are so many other stories.
So how should this history be taught?
Or it should be in the community, because we have like many books, movies, documentaries, music, name it, where people from the outside, so to say, speak, talk, study, and all that about us. Being a marginalized group, I think it's highly important to give the mic to the people we're talking about, to hand over and to let everybody tell their own stories. There are so many untold stories still, especially when we're talking about the Holocaust.
Now let's talk about some of the present day issues that Sinti in Germany and in France are facing.
Alors, être un manouche aujourd'hui en France, c'est plus que c'était il y a peut-être 20 ou 30 ans derrière. Et moi, quand j'étais petit, on avait toujours cette liberté d'être en camping, de bouger un petit peu, d'être en famille, surtout. Et ce sentiment de liberté que j'avais avant quand j'étais petit, je l'ai plus maintenant parce qu'avec les contraintes qu'il y a en Europe et surtout en France, tu peux plus te permettre de vivre comme tu vivais il y a même 20 ans. Pourtant, c'est pas loin derrière. Hein. Mais aujourd'hui, voilà, tu vis comme tout le monde. Malheureusement, être manouche aujourd'hui en France, c'est vivre plus ou moins comme tout le monde. Tu gardes ce que tu es. Et regarde, on est dans une maison et tu fais comme la majorité des gens le font. Ils s'achètent un terrain et deviennent sédentaires. Et malgré tout ça, aujourd'hui, les manouches en France, c'est beaucoup de gens qui se tournent vers le Seigneur à travers l'évangile. Ce besoin d'appartenir à Dieu, il est de plus en plus fort parce que les difficultés actuelles, ne serait-ce que pour vivre correctement, c'est très dur, vraiment c'est dur. Et les gens vraiment se tournent vers le Seigneur de plus en plus. Et c'est bien parce que il y a beaucoup de malheureux à qui Jésus ouvre leur cœur et beaucoup de malheureux qui trouvent la foi, la paix et qui arrivent à vivre correctement malgré les contraintes aujourd'hui. Et c'est un bien. Moi je dis vraiment, je dis merci Seigneur pour tout ça.
I think this is something that probably people from all over the world know this experience that once you call out identity, it's backlash, right? And but it's also something like that people are facing a lot in Germany and trying like to hide it.
Even nowadays, racism against Roma and Sinti is still referred to by a racial slur.
Racial slur that is used towards us or against us. Actually, it's that word is part of this let's say be term. So I'm calling it wannabe because I think it's not really what it's supposed to be because it actually uses the racial term to explain something somehow in an academic way, right? Um, the thing is, just imagine, I can really say that also as a Black woman. Um, Imagine when it comes to the racial term for Black people, and there would be a term that describes racism, like Black racism, and it would contain the racial slur for Black people. Like, you can't really imagine that, right? I think nobody can use that term. It gives people somehow like a free pass. Also use the racial slur because all of a sudden it's so academic, right? Or it's so like in a scientific way. I'm totally fine with the umbrella term because, like I mentioned before, we all belong together and we're all different Romani groups. But of course, we have to respect the fact that some people have like different view on that. But I personally term racism against Romani people, or if I say it in German, racism against Roma and Sinti.
The origin of the name Sinti is actually still disputed to this day. While a lot of people like to believe through popular explanation and folk explanation that Sinti comes from Sindhi, from the Sind region in South Asia, that is actually not supported by modern day linguists, who instead look at it as more of a European loanword due to its inflection within the Romani language. However, the exact origin of this word is still up for debate. Some Sinti individuals that you should know are Django Reinhardt, who was the inventor of Manouche jazz, one of the most beautiful forms of jazz today. And Tela Chai, who was a Romani film actress in the 1920s and one of the first ever Romani actresses on the big screen. Then in Germany, we have Filomena Franz, who was a Romani Holocaust survivor and one of the first ever Romani women to record her experiences during the Holocaust. And Rukeli, also known as Johann Troman, who was a Sinto Romani boxer who stood up against the Nazis. And also, in speaking about the Sinti and Roma civil rights movement, Romani Rose, who is a Sinto, who was one of the leaders of the German Sinti and Roma civil rights movement. If you want to connect more with other Sinti and Manouche people, especially if you are Romani yourself, you can download Kamautut, which is the very first ever Romani dating app created by Noé and Mylène.
Et voilà, je vous présente ma femme, la Mylène. Elle va vous dire pourquoi on a fait Kamautut.
Du coup, on a créé Kamautut. C'est déjà la première application de rencontre pour la communauté des gens du voyage dans le monde. Et notre but, c'était de créer du lien entre tous les gens de la communauté, les gens qui se sentent seuls, qui se retrouvent seuls par la force de la vie des fois et qui ont du mal à rencontrer quelqu'un qui leur ressemble et qui comprennent ce qui se...
J'ai eu l'idée de créer Kamautut parce que on est peut-être de plus en plus nombreux, mais on est de plus en plus seuls. Parce que justement, on est de plus en plus isolés et les gens ne se voient plus comme avant parce que chacun est de son côté.
And also make sure to check out the work of Tayo on all her platforms as well.
Instagram, the different work that I share. Like I said before, I'm part of Romani Pen, the feminist archive in Berlin. We also have a YouTube channel, Romnia Power, where you can also find English speaking content, like different videos, stuff like that. So not everything, but most of the things are also in English. I do music, so you can of course find me online. Just Google my name, and yeah, you'll find.
I hope you enjoyed this video and got to learn a lot more about the unique and beautiful Sinti people. Please like, comment, and share, and stay tuned for the next video. Já de Vlasa.